You don't belong here." Those 5 words echoed through the living room as my mother-in-law pointed toward the front door. Every member of my husband's family stood around me in silence. Some wore smug smiles. Others whispered to one another, clearly enjoying the moment. My husband, Daniel, didn't defend me. He didn't even look at me. Instead, he stared at the floor as if pretending none of this was happening. I stood frozen, wondering how the man who once promised to protect me could now stay silent while his family publicly humiliated me. None of them knew that before the evening was over, military police vehicles would be parked outside the house. And none of them knew why they were coming. My name is Claire Thompson, and for 4 years I believed I had found the perfect husband. Daniel was kind when we first met. He remembered little things about me. He brought flowers for no reason. He talked about building a future together. His family seemed friendly enough while we were dating. Everything changed after the wedding. It started with little comments. "Oh, that's an interesting outfit. You don't cook like women in our family." I guess Daniel lowered his standards. Daniel would laugh awkwardly. "They're just joking." At first, I believed him. Then the jokes became daily criticism. Nothing I did was ever good enough. If dinner was delicious, they'd complain it wasn't traditional. If I cleaned the house, they'd point out a tiny spot I'd missed. If I stayed quiet, I was rude. If I spoke, I was disrespectful. No matter what I did, I was wrong. The worst part wasn't his family. It was Daniel. Every single time I looked at him for support, he chose silence. Eventually, even silence wasn't enough. He started agreeing with them. Most people assumed I had an ordinary office job. That wasn't true. I worked as a cybersecurity consultant for companies handling government contracts. Because of confidentiality agreements, I couldn't discuss my work with anyone. Daniel knew that. His family didn't. They constantly mocked me for working from home. "So, you just sit on your computer all day. That isn't a real job." I bet Daniel pays all the bills. Ironically, I earned almost twice as much as Daniel. But I never corrected them. Money wasn't the issue. Respect was. About 2 years into our marriage, Daniel suggested his parents move in for a few months. "They just need help until Dad retires." I agreed because I wanted peace. It became the biggest mistake of my life. Within weeks, my mother-in-law acted like she owned the house. She changed the furniture. She replaced decorations I'd chosen. She even threw away dishes because she didn't like them. Daniel never objected. One afternoon, I returned home from a client meeting and walked upstairs to my office. The room was empty. My desk was gone. My monitors. My equipment. Everything. Panicking, I ran downstairs. What happened to my office? My mother-in-law smiled proudly. "We turned it into Amanda's beauty room." I stared at her. My work equipment was in there. "We moved it." "You touched government-issued equipment." She rolled her eyes. "It's just computers." "No, it isn't." Daniel interrupted. "Claire, calm down." "Calm down." They entered my locked office. "It's only a room." Only a room. Those words stayed with me for weeks. I carefully inspected every piece of equipment. Luckily, nothing appeared damaged. Still, I quietly installed new security cameras inside the guest room where I rebuilt my office. I never told anyone. Months passed. The insults continued. Amanda borrowed my clothes without permission. My father-in-law criticized everything from my cooking to my career. Whenever relatives visited, my mother-in-law treated me like a servant. Daniel acted as though this was completely normal. I kept asking myself the same question. How did we get here? Had Daniel changed? Or had I simply never seen who he really was? Then came Daniel's birthday. His mother insisted on hosting a huge family dinner. Nearly 20 relatives crowded into the house. I cooked most of the food. Nobody thanked me. Instead, they complimented my mother-in-law. After dinner, everyone gathered in the living room. Daniel's father stood with a glass in his hand. "I'd like everyone's attention." The room became quiet. I think it's time we talked honestly. Something about his smile made my stomach tighten. He looked directly at me. Claire has never truly fit into this family. Several relatives nodded. Amanda laughed softly. He continued. She's secretive. She's cold. She thinks she's better than us. Every sentence felt like another stone placed on my chest. Then my mother-in-law stood beside him. I've been patient for years. She looked at Daniel. My son deserves someone who actually loves this family. I waited. Surely Daniel would finally defend me. Instead, he slowly nodded. I think, maybe she's right. For a second, I couldn't breathe. What did you just say? He wouldn't meet my eyes. I think you should leave for a while. You want me to leave my own home? It'll make everything easier. Easier. Not fair. Not right. Just easier. Amanda clapped her hands excitedly. I'll help pack her things. She ran upstairs before I could answer. My mother-in-law folded her arms. You don't belong here. Several relatives actually applauded. Someone whispered, finally. Another laughed. I looked around the room. Not one person stood up for me. Not even my husband. I reached into my pocket and unlocked my phone. Without saying a word, I sent a single message. Ready. Please come now. That was it. Just 5 words. Daniel noticed. Who are you texting? I slipped the phone back into my pocket. No one you need to worry about. He laughed. Calling your parents? No. So who? You'll find out soon enough. Amanda came downstairs dragging one of my suitcases. Behind her was one of my locked equipment cases. Oops. She let it fall onto the hardwood floor with a loud crash. Everyone laughed. Then she picked up my work laptop. She waved it in the air dramatically. Maybe now she'll finally leave. The room erupted with laughter. I simply watched. Because I knew something they didn't. My office security cameras had recorded everything. Every unauthorized entry. Every time someone touched my secured equipment. Every careless joke. Every act of vandalism. Suddenly, the sound of engines echoed outside. One. Then another. Then a third vehicle. Everyone turned toward the front windows. Amanda pulled back the curtain. 3 dark military police SUVs rolled slowly into the driveway. The laughter stopped instantly. No one said a word. A loud knock echoed through the house. Then another. Daniel frowned. Who on earth? The front door shook under one final firm knock. I looked at everyone gathered in the room. Then I quietly smiled for the first time in years. Looks like they're here. The entire house fell silent. No one moved. The only sound was the ticking clock on the living room wall. Daniel glanced at me, confused. What did you mean, they're here? I didn't answer. Another firm knock echoed through the house. My father-in-law forced a nervous laugh. This must be a mistake. Amanda folded her arms confidently. Maybe they have the wrong address. Daniel walked to the front door and slowly opened it. Standing outside were 4 uniformed military police officers. Behind them stood 2 investigators in dark suits carrying briefcases. The senior officer spoke calmly. Good evening. Is Ms. Claire Thompson present? I am, I replied. He nodded respectfully. Good evening, Ms. Thompson. The room froze. My mother-in-law's confident smile disappeared. Amanda stared at me in disbelief. Daniel looked from the officer to me. You know them? One of the investigators stepped forward and showed an identification badge. We're here regarding an ongoing investigation involving unauthorized access to protected government equipment and possible destruction of evidence. My father-in-law frowned. There must be some misunderstanding. The investigator looked directly at him. Sir, we'd appreciate your cooperation. Another officer approached me. Ms. Thompson, are you safe? Yes, I answered. Thank you for coming. Daniel whispered. Claire, what's going on? I looked at him for the first time all evening. You never asked what I actually did for a living. Months earlier, I had been assigned to assist with cybersecurity audits for companies handling military contracts. During one routine audit, I discovered suspicious attempts to access secure government systems. The investigation quickly expanded. Because I had uncovered the breach, investigators asked me to continue assisting while keeping everything confidential. My work equipment contained encrypted information. It wasn't classified military intelligence, but it was protected by strict federal security rules. When my office was emptied without my permission months earlier, I immediately informed the investigators. Rather than confronting my family, I followed their advice. Install cameras. Document everything. Say nothing. Wait. The investigators believed whoever had been tampering with my equipment might eventually reveal more. Tonight. They had. One investigator opened a tablet. Would everyone please remain where you are? He tapped the screen. Security footage appeared. The living room television automatically mirrored the video. Everyone watched in silence. There was Amanda entering my locked office. There she was opening equipment cases. Laughing. Trying random passwords. Recording herself with her phone. Another clip showed my father-in-law moving secured hardware into the garage because he wanted more space. Another showed my mother-in-law telling relatives they could use my office while I was away. Then came the final recording. Only minutes earlier. Amanda lifting my work laptop. Throwing it onto the hardwood floor. The loud crack echoed through the television speakers. No one laughed this time. Amanda's face turned pale. I didn't know. The investigator calmly replied. Whether you knew or not doesn't change what happened. Daniel slowly turned toward me. You had cameras. I installed them after my office was emptied. You never told me. I stopped trusting you. His shoulders dropped. He didn't argue. Because he knew I was right. The investigators carefully photographed the damaged laptop and equipment case. They documented every serial number. Every broken cable. Every scratch. One officer asked Amanda, "Did you have permission to handle these devices?" "No." "Were you aware they belonged to Ms. Thompson?" "Yes." Another investigator asked my father-in-law, "Did you instruct anyone to move this equipment?" He remained silent. His attorney instincts clearly told him saying nothing was wiser. Then the lead investigator made another announcement. "We also have evidence that someone attempted to access encrypted files several weeks ago from this home's internet connection." Daniel looked horrified. His father immediately protested. "I don't know anything about computers." The investigator nodded. "Our forensic team will determine exactly who attempted the access." No accusations. Just facts. That frightened them even more. My mother-in-law suddenly burst into tears. "Claire, we're family." I looked at her quietly. Family doesn't spend years humiliating each other. She stepped closer. "We were only joking." I remembered every birthday. Every holiday. Every cruel comment. Every time Daniel stood beside her instead of beside me. Jokes don't leave someone feeling unwanted in their own home. She had no answer. Daniel finally spoke. "I'm sorry." The words were barely audible. I should have stopped them. Yes. I thought keeping everyone happy would fix everything. It only encouraged them. He covered his face with his hands. "I've lost you, haven't I?" I nodded. "You lost me long before tonight." The investigators finished documenting the scene. One officer handed me a folder. "Ms. Thompson, we'll contact you tomorrow regarding the remaining procedures." "Thank you." He smiled politely. "We're glad you contacted us immediately." As they walked toward the door, the investigator turned back one last time. "Remember, everyone, interfering with protected equipment is never something to take lightly." The front door closed behind them. For the first time in years, the house was completely silent. The following morning, I met with my attorney. I filed for divorce. Not because of one terrible evening. Because of 4 years of choosing silence over respect. Daniel didn't contest anything. He knew there was nothing left to save. The house was sold a few months later. I moved into a small home overlooking a quiet lake. For the first time in years, every room belonged to me. There were no insults. No criticism. No one telling me I didn't belong. Only peace. 6 months later, my phone rang. It was Daniel. I almost ignored it. Almost. "I just wanted to apologize one last time," he said. "I've spent months wondering how I became the man who let everyone hurt the person he promised to protect." I listened quietly. "I can't change the past," he continued. "No," I replied. "You can't. But I hope someday you'll forgive me." I looked out across the lake. Forgiveness wasn't something I owed him. But hatred wasn't something I wanted to carry forever. "I hope you learn from it, Daniel." He whispered. "I will." Then the call ended. Sometimes people ask me what the biggest lesson was. They expect me to talk about investigations, or military police, or security cameras. But none of those changed my life. The real lesson was much simpler. Never stay somewhere you're constantly being told you don't belong. The right people will never make you earn your place in their lives. Respect isn't a gift. It's the foundation of every healthy relationship. The night Daniel's family tried to throw me out, they believed they were taking everything from me. They were wrong. They were only pushing me toward the life I should have chosen long before. And as I locked the door to my new home that evening, I smiled to myself. For the first time in years, I was exactly where I belonged.